What is Rally? Well, it's a company that's generated $120 million of revenue since I started it, so there's that. But I'm here to talk about how I pitch this to many different types of investors and give you a little insight into the different ways that you might talk about your businesses, because it really depends on the audience you're speaking to. So let's go through a few of the different descriptions, one-liners I have to try to resonate with different types of audiences. First is the bus rideshare. It's an easy connection. People understand rideshare. We've all seen Uber and Lyft change the entire taxi world over the last few years. You could say, I do, that Uber is just a taxi company at the end of the day. But that's kind of like an old person not understanding what the new things are. And we call it rideshare to differentiate taxis in the traditional business model from the new one. Ultimately, it's really just a few business and technology innovations that can change an entire industry, make something old new again. And the bus rideshare in that way is the same. Buses are the ultimate rideshare. They always were. They're made to be. But what we've done is applied technology and business innovations, many of which are the same that you see in many other businesses and mobility segments. But we're leading the way. Rally has led the way when it comes to buses. Another way I describe it is a virtual bus company. If Uber is a taxi company that doesn't own taxis, Rally is a bus company that doesn't own buses. And in that sense, again, we're able to differentiate or make an analog to something that people recognize very easily. Everyone's familiar with Uber. They've used it. If you're an investor, you're thinking about the business model of Uber, and you understand this asset-less business model, which, of course, is all the rage. No one actually wants to own the asset. We, as Rally, are dispatching the buses of these thousands of mom-and-pop bus companies. It gets me a chance to talk about this fragmented industry, how most people think it's all Greyhound, but Greyhound only owns 5% of the buses in the U.S., so another way to connect with people and make this analog. If you're in the mobility industry, I talk about mass mobility as a service. Mobility as a service is a concept that people in the space are familiar with. They know what it means to think of transportation as not something you own anymore, but something that you call on demand. That we call an Uber when we need a quick ride across town. We use scooters and bikes on demand and bike share programs. We use Turo when we want a rental car. We don't have to own assets anymore. We're using mobility when we need it, how we need it, and buses are a part of that. Rally's handling not this first and last mile stuff that we've seen in the mobility revolution so far, but the middle mile. So that's another way of connecting people to the concept. Then, of course, there's the Uber of buses, which is a tired one. I don't like to use it. In fact, whenever I say it these days, I say that you're probably tired of hearing that Uber of analogy. But again, if someone needs to be hit over the head with it, it's in an elevator pitch. I quickly make that analog, and it gets people curious at least. I do have to usually differentiate and say, hey, you don't hail a bus, but we are dispatching them on demand based on rider demand. We plan them earlier. We're planning trips way in advance, but ultimately it's demand responsive. It's a marketplace. We're connecting supply and demand. It's a managed marketplace. We can get into the differences of marketplaces and the evolution of them in another conversation. So yeah, those are kind of the different ways I talk about it. To me, it's all Rally. It's all fun, and I love this industry and changing the way people are moving. It's a huge segment of mobility. Buses move more people than any other mode of transportation, and it's been overlooked. But I think we're early in the mobility revolution, and Rally is going to be, focusing on global domination of the industry. That is the goal. I hope you're interested and check us out, both as a customer and maybe even as an investor. Say hello.